Ghana's parliament has approved a significant $2.8 billion debt relief package with 25 major creditor countries, including China, France, the US, Germany, and the UK, as part of its ongoing efforts to manage an unprecedented economic crisis. This restructuring, formalized via the G20 Common Framework, reschedules debt service payments due between December 2022 and, of course, December 2026, pushing payments to 2039 to 2043, with favorable interest rates of just 1 to 3%, offering immediate fiscal relief under its 3-year IMF-backed bailout program. Over 90% of Ghana's official external debt has been rescheduled or restructured through bilateral agreements, and the government is actively negotiating with commercial creditors covering around $2.7 billion to complete the process. The relief is designed to bolster macroeconomic stability, free up resources for domestic growth initiatives, and reassure wary investors. Now, in short, Ghana has secured sweeping debt relief from its official creditors, joining, or rather buying crucial time to stabilize its economy and redirect funding toward development. Now, the focus shifts to wrapping up negotiations with commercial lenders.
So joining us to unpack this is Baah Abankwa, International Financial Analyst and also investment consultants, to unpack what the deals mean for Ghana's future. Welcome, Patrick. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good morning from Ghana.
Yes, thank you. Now, so what are the primary short-term fiscal benefits Ghana gains from delaying payments until 2043, like we've just read? If you can give us a detailed approach to this.
Thank you very much. I think that in 2022, when Ghana's debt clearly became unsustainable, the government of the day decided to go back to IMF for a bailout program. And as you rightly said, this has gone on, and now we have Parliament approving a particular tranche of how much we need to restructure. In terms of the benefit that you rightly said, the first of all is that it's going to give us a significant debt service relief. What it means is that Ghana will be able to free up some crucial fiscal space in the immediate to medium term, and this means that government will be able to have more funds available now that would otherwise be allocated to servicing high interest debt. The second thing that we also see is that it's going to help and create opportunity for government to reallocate resources towards some essential services and productive investments. And this also helps to free up capital that are channeled into areas relating to health, education, infrastructure, social protection programs, and all of those things that are geared towards economic growth and also human capital development. The third thing I also see is that it helps to stabilize the Ghana cedi by reducing the demand for foreign currency that hitherto would have been used to service the debt that we always have to gather enough funds to pay them off, especially when the interests are due. And this helps to ease down inflation in the country. And as you rightly know, Ghana at the moment has one of the most performing currencies in the world because of some of these additions that the government took in 2022. And I think this helps to enhance the macroeconomic stability in the country and provides a more, I think, predictable environment for businesses and also investors. And I think that the delay can also improve government's cash flow positions because it helps to reduce the pressure that we need to borrow further to meet obligations. And this temporary reprieve for me is essential because Ghana will be able to implement some of its fiscal consolidation and structural reform agenda without having to burden its citizens with, repayment demands, and also going into the local markets to be able to raise some treasury bills, which at the end of the day builds up to the domestic debt program of the government.
Right. I have to ask, just for the sake of, for posterity's sake, is this not pushing or kicking the can down the road? We're talking 2039 to 2043, right? This presidency will definitely end, another will come until 2039. And the saddle, the responsibility is now saddled on the administration to repay this debt. If all the fiscal outlook and benefits that Ghana is hoping to accrue at that time doesn't happen, what then happens to that administration in paying back these loans?
So I think what the previous government did and the current government is trying to do is that we are trying to spread the repayment over a period of time. So if we have to pay, let's say within 5 years, the restructure means that we are extending it to about 10, 15 years, which means that year on year, we put together a program to build up funds to service the debt so that we don't have to pay all at a go. That's the first thing. Second thing that government is also doing is trying to be fiscal discipline. And fiscal discipline here means that we don't spend so much money beyond what we can actually do. And once you do that, you don't build up on the cost that you are already shifting to the future. So it's not just a now situation, but it's also a future situation where if government stick to the fiscal discipline program that we have with IMF, I think that eventually whoever is in power at the time that we need to pay the principal will not have that pressure because we've been able to build a buffer of funds to pay down the investment when eventually they are due for us to pay in the future.
Okay. Well, as we're talking, let's also talk about, the risks of this. There must be some sort of risk, right? Because this is heavily reliant on saying that, it's going to give Ghana enough time to recoup. It's going to give them to boost their economy. It's going to give a lot of time. But what are the risks to it? We must also point out the risks. We're talking about the benefits of this as well.
Yeah, the risk is that, one, we are going to have a situation where if you don't take care, there will be lack of full comparability of treatment. What it means is that these creditors that have given us the leeway to extend the duration at some time will feel that we are giving some kind of benefit to some other creditors other than them. So let me just break it down. We have two main kinds of creditors that we are dealing with. We are dealing with the commercial creditors who have extended the duration, and we also dealing with official creditors. Now, when this process drags for a very long time, at some point in time, there will be some overlay of agreements. Some of the creditors will feel like we are giving priority to others when it comes to repayment of their extended credit agreement that we have with them. Two, it also leads to investor fatigue and some prolonged period of market exclusion. What this means is that the longer the commercial restructuring drags on, the longer Ghana remains effectively shut out of the capital market. And once government is shut out of the capital market, means that government will now have to rely on the local market over and over again. And the reliance on the local market leads to government crowding out the private sector, because the private sector will need the funds of depositors to expand by way of loans. But if government is playing within that space because they need money to be able to undertake projects because the capital market is shut down, that will eventually create a big issue for the country in terms of private sector businesses will not be able to expand. They will have availability of funds by way of loans because government is now giving that to the banks. And as you all know, if I want to give my money to a government and a private sector, I'll prefer government because I know government is a continual process and nothing will happen to my investment. So that's also a risk that we need to manage over a period of time.
Interesting. Patrick, so we all know that there's no free lunch. You've got to pay for something. Now, once anybody's aiding you with something, expect that there might be a little kickback or give back eventually. So in terms of IMF, we had our own issue where we're done with repaying our loans, but there are suggestions that there's still other things when it comes to sovereignty that we had to give up. So in the case of Ghana now, what are the IMF conditions that are tied to this debt relief? And what impact will they have on Ghana's economic sovereignty and also its policy flexibility?
So I think that, as you rightly said, there's not like a free lunch anywhere. When IMF comes into your country and they're able to help you to put together your economic fortunes, they put some conditions that you need to adhere to immediately in the future. Looking at Ghana's situation, first of all, IMF is very clear in terms of our fiscal consolidation measures. And this means that we have to meet or adhere to strict fiscal targets, including reducing our budget debt deficit through increased mobilization. So if you follow the news in Ghana, there are a lot of taxes that are coming up, increment of utility tariffs. All these things are conditionalities that IMF will put in place for you to be able to mobilize revenue to meet your expenditure. So that's also one of the areas that IMF has brought in. Then also the expenditure itself, how government should rationalize its expenditure, controlling public sector wages, eliminating insufficient subsidies on some social intervention policies. Then again, they are also putting in place monetary policy tightening. And if you follow, again, Ghana's situation, the Bank of Ghana is usually required to maintain a very tight monetary policy stance to bring down inflation. and that often involves higher interest rates and a commitment to cease monetary financing of the budget. Then we also have structural reforms, which is broad and can include measures such as improving governance, enhancing the business environment, strengthening state-owned enterprises, and address weaknesses in key sectors of the country. And in Ghana, the key sectors that the IMF program is focusing on is the energy sector and the cocoa sector. Then again, we're also looking at the broader reducing fiscal autonomy. Here, what we are saying is that government's ability to make independent spending and taxation decisions will be curtailed by the IMF target that they've set for government, and that can limit the scope of counter-cyclical fiscal policies in the future so that we're able to be future ready to address shocks that we are expecting in the future. So these are some of the conditionalities that IMF has already implemented through the IMF policy that they have currently. And as we speak, we are beginning to see the impact of that through taxes, through some subsidies that are removed, through some interventions of fees that hitherto government agencies and some social intervention groups were not paying or enjoying.
All right. Patrick, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. We wait to see, all eyes are on Ghana at this point, and we wait to see the benefits that they hope this would achieve or this move will achieve for the economy. Patrick Baah Abankwa, he is International Financial Analyst, and he joined us today as Ghana approves a $2.88 billion deal to support IMF bailout. Once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, too. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Now, that's it for us this morning for a Saturday edition of Breakfast Extra. It has been quite an interesting one, if you would agree with me. But do remember now, we're going to have that conversation with Mr. Baah Ibrahim for tomorrow. We're hoping that we can get him to come on the show so we can have a full conversation. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that here today because of the connection issues. But thank you very much to everybody who tuned in early at 8 a.m. to join us for all 3 hours. We've got another installment for tomorrow now, don't we, Judith?
Absolutely. So make sure to join us live, dry
and early is okay. Let's hope it doesn't rain.
Live Sunday, bright and early at 8 o'clock in the morning. So join us. We will be there. Until next time, until come your way tomorrow, do have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.